Hey there, welcome to The Filth. My name is Max. Alright, so if you're watching this video, it's either you've never seen my face before, or you're like, what does this have to do with the things you normally do on this channel? If you know what this shirt is, and you play guitar and you're a guitar nerd, then this is exactly where you should be. For everybody else, I'd love you to stick around and check it out, but it might go over your head and you'll have like no idea what we're talking about. It's just like, why is this guy obsessing about such a silly thing? Anyways, if you like what you see, by all means, please like and subscribe. So what I'm talking about, of course, is the Brown sound, okay? The Brown sound, specifically the tone on Van Halen 1, is by many considered like just the ultimate guitar sound. A world opened up to me when Pete did a video, or about a year ago or so, that was a deep dive into the Brown sound, and it went over the amp, it went over the guitars, and there was a new piece of information in there, and that is about his hypothesis that he's apparently had for quite some time, that there is a ceramic magnet sound on Van Halen 1. So I heard that and I was like, I think Pete's onto something here. And then finally, in what I think is a hugely valuable resource, Pete Thorn went and used like 30 different pickups or something crazy like that, switched them out of mostly the same guitar, and tried all these different pickups. Perhaps the most iconic, memorable, and aggressive tones on that album are actually on songs recorded with the Ibanez Destroyer and not with the Strat style guitar. So I think it's safe to assume that the ceramic magnet pickup was in the Destroyer and not in the Strat style guitar. Pete, at the beginning of that video, takes out the Ibanez Destroyer that he bought. He got that same kind of Destroyer, and he very confidently, at the beginning of that video, says that he thinks that the Super Distortion that he had, when he put it in there, just nails that sound. Pete has pointed to the fact that the Mighty Mite 1300, we knew Eddie was using, at least in the club days, and we see that in the Strat style guitar that he used. And then we also know that the Super Distortion was later put into the Shark guitar. So we have evidence of that sort of pickup being used. When Pete played that, I heard a lot of people saying, that's the pickup. That's what he's doing. Everybody's got it. It's as if everybody's just started saying this. I've even started seeing on forums, people are saying if you want that first album, you got to get the Super Distortion or the ceramic magnet thing. But I got to tell you, I think it sounds really good, but it doesn't sound quite right to me. Now, I hear a lot of people thinking that it's the Super Distortion, probably mostly because a Super Distortion was later put into the Shark guitar. But as Eddie has said before, he didn't even like that guitar after a while, after he took out the chunk. Once it became the Shark guitar, it was featured on the cover of Women and Children First because it looks really cool. But he didn't like the way it sounded. He said that it took away a lot of the resonance. So really what pickup was in it at that point is less relevant. Now, I think I've figured out exactly what it is. And it's been right under our nose to one degree or another for some time now. Now, it's well known that obviously Eddie used the Seymour Duncan Custom later on in his Floyd Rose equipped guitars, but we don't think that he used them much earlier. Now, I have two pieces of evidence that I think could possibly lay this debate to rest if it's verified properly. So there is that advertisement, that famous advertisement that's reappeared from a guitar magazine in 1979. So this isn't into the 80s where we know that Eddie's using the Custom or the JB, and it says Seymour has a handful of different pickups, and he mentions the Duncan Custom as being one that's used by Eddie Van Halen. Of course, Eddie apparently was upset about this, and he stopped referencing that. And you have to think about it, this is in 1979, right? This is early on. This is only when Van Halen 1 has come out and maybe Van Halen 2. So what Pete did is he threw the Seymour Duncan Custom, which is very similar to a Super Distortion, at least on paper, and then it has a ceramic magnet, and they're both around like, 14K or something like that. Now check this out. Listen to the Super Distortion again in the Ibanez Destroyer. All right, now listen to the sound on Van Halen 1.
Girl, you really got me now. You got me so I don't know what I'm doing. Girl, you really got me now. You got me so I get some bad night.
Okay, it's pretty close, right? But it's not quite there. There's a character that's different. There's something about that the punch of it is wrong. Now listen to this. It sounds very good, but I think we could all agree that that was clearly not in the Strat, because it's too tight, it's too focused, right? The Ibanez Destroyer thickens things up and gives it a heavier sound in a lot of ways, just a more like really punch you in the gut kind of sound. But the thing is that Super Distortion, it's too much of a juicy MIDI thing. The Duncan Custom, to me, what's always been cool about it is that it's very tight, it's very clear, and it's aggressive, but it still has a kind of PAF vibe to it a little bit. It's like even Duncan says on the website, it's kind of like a souped up PAF sound with like more power, right? As to where the Super Distortion is not really in PAF land. It's a full-blown distortion pickup. And Eddie's even said that he doesn't like full-on distortion style pickups. And as I said before, we know in that ad from 1979, so it wasn't the Custom yet, and it doesn't say Custom in that ad, it says Custom. It says that Van Halen used the Duncan Custom, which has the ceramic magnet, and that validates the whole ceramic thing about it being edgier and brighter, or edgier and thicker and just more attacky. But the Duncan Custom still has 1 foot kind of in that PAF territory. It's still got enough of that kind of classic humbucker sound that it would have been something that Eddie would have liked. It would have had more sustain, and it would have still been clear. Clarity is really important with all of Eddie's pickups. So if Seymour Duncan wound 2 pickups, one of them called the 78, which by all available evidence was used, or something just like it was used by Eddie in his Strat style guitar in 1978, and there was a ceramic magnet pickup also. But with the added evidence of Seymour Duncan saying in this ad in 1979 that Eddie had used the Duncan Custom combined with the evidence that I can hear, and I hope many of you can hear with your own ears by listening to these sound clips. The pickup that was used on Van Halen 1 on all the songs where the Ibanez Destroyer is used is the Seymour Duncan Custom. Could I be wrong? Sure, of course I could be wrong. But I don't think so. And I would love to hear somebody do a test with this. And maybe we can put this debate to rest finally. I don't have an Ibanez Destroyer, and I'm a decent enough player, but I can't quite, play like Pete Thorn, not with that much groove. And I don't have the equipment that he has either or anything like that. But I would love for somebody, ideally Pete, but anybody who has access to those things, to put the Duncan Custom in the Destroyer and try it again. And I think when that happens, in conjunction with the other evidence that we had, I think that there's a very strong case to be made that this subject can be put to rest, at least when it comes to what pickup was in the Ibanez Destroyer. It's funny, it's like at the end of the day, if you don't know how to play and you put the Duncan Custom in there or whatever else you put in there, you're still you. At the end of the day, it was Eddie's magic, and he continues to inspire me personally. And now I know if I really want to get super authentic about it, that I know at least one of the pickups that should be used. And with that, thank you for watching The Filth, and I bid you adieu.